That's what first happens. Right. So it's just what I did.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we concentrate on our own little world. And it makes it different.
Yeah.
If you have a wider scope, that's.
How do I? Oh, thank you. I honestly, I just put stuff together, and I was like, I don't know if this is good, but I texted Amy last night. I was like, "Is this a box?" And she's like, "Yes, it just doesn't have a lid." I think. I hope this is working. I can't really. Yeah. So.
In the middle.
Yeah. Maybe in front of that screen.
Okay.
Talking. I also have to sign it. So I switch to
Yeah, go for it.
What do I just unplug yours?
No, just go on the desktop and this one here, and minimize it, and just switch here to whatever.
Computer. Okay. Learning new things every day.
It took me some time to figure
Yeah.
out.
We'll just do that. You guys want to sign in real quick so you're here? I'm tired of printing out things. Maybe I'll put this.
I'm gonna limit me over there.
I'll put you here. There you go.
It is difficult sometimes.
Can you see the screen?
But it's okay.
Okay.
I'll do whatever it is.
Okay, did everybody sign in? Oh.
See that this thing is so different for me. It works.
Thumbs down. Okay.
How you doing? I'm Gilberto Barrios. I'm a former teacher for 22 years. Taught K through 8. Also was in the district office. So that in itself gives me a lot of broad experiences. So let me start with a little bit about me. This is what I had done to get where I am. I had to get my BA. Then from there, I went and got my liberal studies. Got my credential in multiple subjects. At the time when I took it, there was not that many requirements that you guys face. Okay, the only thing I had to do was the CBEST, which you still have to do. How many of you are planning to do elementary school? Elementary. That means your CBEST is one of the ones, but I think everyone has to take it. Then if you're going into middle or high school, middle school is pretty much you're going to get your multiple subject with and then supplemental credential to be able to teach in that area. So for example, if you're going to teach into math, You can do multiple subject, plus your math, supplemental, or English, depending on what you want to do. Okay? So mine was multiple. It was in the reference at that time was BICLAT. It was the Bilingual Authorization at that time. Now you had to take a bilingual authorization. Is that correct? So you have that part. Then from there, I move on and I got my master's in education. And my master was in multicultural, multilingual. I also got my administrative credential. So I wanted to become an administrator. Unfortunately, the district I was working with did not match a lot of times with what my goals were and the district's goals were. So I stayed in the classroom. I did went into the district office as part of the English language department, English language development department, where I was in charge of English learners and their assessment around the state. So you'll find yourselves that you have students, they're English learners, but most of us is, oh, Spanish. No, there's over 50 languages or more in San Diego County. Pleasure. Spanish is the most common language we have, the largest number of students, but there is other things. Now, it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the Proposition 52, 54 were authorized bilingual programs. So dual immersion programs are coming up. From there, when I got my educational my doctorate in education and leadership. The university has both, has a doctorate degree. There is in combination with UCSD. What that does is a 3-year program. You can do it without any problem. I think what I like about the program is they consider you as a working individual. So the program works for you. So what do I have? Teacher. My experience, like I said, it's 22 years teaching. Teaching kindergarten. So I was promoted half a grade every year. Kindergarten, K1, first, second, third, fourth, back to first grade. Then I went into middle school and I taught English, ELD, English Language Development. From there I went into the district office. Important thing that you do, you had to depend on, do with your friends, wherever you're around, and in the school site that you're going to be working on. Friends are very important. I also was a mentor. I couldn't be all these parts that I'm doing. I wouldn't be able to do it without friends, mentor, helping students to move forward. How can we do it? You think you know everything, but guess what? I didn't know anything. Because every year, the university throws different things at you. So I know what I'm going to do this time. Then you go and you find the requirements have changed. Always keep yourselves informed. Always. Doesn't want to work. I taught here in the credential program. Especially classes that are one of the that's required. Education 364. You have to take that one. And it's a very interesting class because everybody has to take it. And so one of the things that I learned is that you have that diverse population coming to the class and how everybody looks at the assignments that you get in there. So different. I've been a researcher. I have provided training both here and the other side. Students are moving from here back to Mexico. they're finding the same problems that we have got here. One of the things that you hear, I don't know, how many of you are English learners? That's okay, because I'm an English learner. Okay. How many of you speak other language than English? Okay. All right. So being an English learner, and you still, even though you're English only, you still learning English. And I'll tell you why I came with that solution. Is that while I was doing my doctorate, even my English only colleagues, they said, "What language is this?" Because of the academic language was very hard. So even though that they spoke English, they had to learn a new language. So if you have to learn a new language as a teacher, what the different terms mean? Because you don't know what they mean, right? Like everyone, you hear this IEP. Are you familiar with those things? What is it? Who will tell me what it is? An IEP. So that means you'll be taking some of the classes, right? So, but many people don't know. ELD, many people that sometimes don't understand what ELD is. LCAP, CELT, all those are educational terms that are mostly in California. The CELT is the California English Language Development Test. No longer used. The LPAC is the new CELT. It's a new assessment for English learners to see how they are acquiring the language. So all those things you have to do. So Mexico is finding the same thing, but they don't have the same approach that we have here. Okay, I didn't choose to become a teacher. Okay, I didn't choose. Because I came into the profession into getting here at the age, so you know, I'm a retired teacher. I came into my to get my bachelor's degree when I was about 30, 35, somewhere around there. See how time happens. But I was able, with my children, I was able to work out in this classroom. So I became a teacher. After working for some certain times, and that's why I became a teacher, the professor, the teacher I was working with as an instructional aide said, "We need bilingual teachers." This is the exact words that I said. It takes too long to get a credential. How many things have that thought? It takes too long. But I'm glad I was told to do it, because I still got to. Time goes by anyway. Either I get my credential, or I would have been working as a custodian for all that time. So what do I rather do? Work with my hands or work with my brain? As also, as a teacher, I only worked 10 months. As a custodian, I was working 12 months. So which one is better? This one here. Okay. Looking for in the future, comparing my manual work versus my brain work. So those are the things that I start thinking about it. Now that I'm retired, I'm enjoying my time. So now, since all the things that the challenges that you have, now when you get through it, works out beautiful. Now, this is one of the things that you find constantly from parents and government. How your students are doing? What is their performance? Right? And sometimes you have no control of it because you cannot get into the brains, do you? Can I get into your brain? No. You're going to promote yourselves if you want to do it. If the student doesn't want to do it, doesn't want how much you work, he's not going to do it. You have to motivate them to do it. Policies. That's one of the most difficult things to follow. Why? Because you're going to find it is the principal guy said, you have to do this. Why? These students don't know. I'll give you one example, one policy. Remember that No Child Left Behind? How many of you are familiar with it? They said every student has to be tested. A couple times during the time they were testing, I had a student just arrived from Mexico. The student didn't know English at all. But I had to give him a test in English. How well do you think the student do? Is it worth it? No. Again, it's one of those things. English learners. Again, how do I help them? The thought is, oh, I had to teach them English. Yes, but how? And the philosophy is changing, and I always use this philosophy. I had to use the strengths of my students to be able to do it. Because the thought was, they do not know anything. Why? What do you think that thought was always around? What do you think? Anybody? Student doesn't know anything. The teacher, student walks in the class, okay? And the teacher asks the student in English about certain things in math or language arts. Students just looks like it. Will be. It goes down to what? Did the student understand what the teacher said? No. So if I start speaking Spanish, how many of you will understand what I'm saying? Good. I have done it many times, especially in Tijuana. I started speaking in English. People want to get up, go away. Why? Because they don't understand it. So my friend over there says, stay there. It was a way to show how much they learned, how much the student, how much the student felt when he arrived into the classroom. The same thing happens over there. The teacher makes the assumption students speak Spanish just because of the skin, the color of the skin. Many of them do not. Why? Because the instruction always been in English. And the Spanish they have is very limited what they got to learn at home. And sometimes they don't even use it at home because mom and dad says, speak English. I don't know how many of you experienced that at home, but mom says, you had to speak English, not Spanish. Wrong, because then you really have missing the boat. Students with disabilities, you kind of have these skills in there. Now with the inclusion system, they are going to be there. How would you address their needs? The socioeconomic status. You will have some students there, socioeconomics is very high, but then you have many that are very low. How would you address their needs? And if they don't have those things met, they're not going to learn. They're going to have the most important part for them is, I'm not going to eat. Where's my next meal coming from? These are some of the things you're going to find, the barriers you're going to be facing. Culturally, because you're going to have students from different backgrounds. How do I address them? Again, English learners come to the play. The support, economic support. Language. What would you do with students that come in to speak not Spanish, which you're able to communicate, but it comes from Korea, Vietnam, Middle East, Egypt, in all the Arab countries, what will you do about it? How would you address it? That's what 364 will help. The best way for me, they already have a language, don't they? So you start using their language, their knowledge, and then telling them what is in English. So you know what this is in Spanish. What is this in Spanish? Anybody? What is this? Mesa or escritorios, right? You say, okay, table or desk. So the student starts learning the label of the same object they know. The other thing is costumes. Do they know what costumes they have? You need to bring mom and dad into the classroom. You notice I do have an accent. And I will never lose my accent. The reason is I learned English as an adult. According to studies, students will not have an accent when they learn any language before puberty. Once puberty hits, the accent is there. So if you know people who have learned a language as an adult or after puberty, you'll see they have an accent. It has taken me some time to get rid of it, to learn to pronounce words better, but I had to practice. So I can make the sounds correctly. So in Spanish, we don't care about the C and the S, do we? The S and the Z. We pronounce them like nothing. The B and the V. We don't make the differences. But in English, we do. And that's one thing I had to learn. Because at one time I made the mistake. They say, vowel, when I was talking about a vowel. So when they said, vowel, go to the bathroom. No. Hey, vowel. So those differences, if you don't make them, you have a problem. So that's why the accent causes many problems. And that's one of the things I faced many times, and you'll face many times. Speak proper English. What is a proper English?
Nobody speaks proper English.
It's okay. It's the perception of the individual, right? I'm speaking proper English. But according to me, some other people say, no, you're not. Look at your perception. Do I get my message across? That's the cause, right? But that's the whole thing. Uncle Sam is always asking, proper language. This is not some of the things he says. Not like this one here. We cannot teach people anything. We can only help them discover if it's within themselves. Think about it. Kind of share with somebody next to you. What do you think about this quote means to you? Quickly, down about 10, 50 seconds. Next to you, somewhere. You start. I can see it's too, okay, let's get it back. I can see it's too early. It's too early, it's too late. You feel tired. You're so hungry that you don't want to think about it. It's okay. Anybody would like to share what this means to you? See, that's what culturally we always have a problem. We want. Be firm. You can do it. You have confidence. Go.
If you give like the students the research or like the material to learn, they're gonna grasp it more.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Kind of going off of what she said, it's like helping them, giving them basically the things that they need, but it's up to them to actually want to take it and learn.
Okay. Somebody else. Everybody has a thought about this. You're just concerned of it. Am I going to give the right answer? How many of you are thinking that? Is it really a right answer? So what are we afraid? You sound, but you know what? When you think about that, sounding dumb, but can I assure you, many of you have maybe the same question, but are afraid of asking. And that's what you're going to find in the classroom. Students don't want to risk, raise their hand, because they don't want to sound dumb. On the other hand, if you create a culture in your classroom where no matter what you say, it's going to be respected by everybody else, students will participate. You don't know me, you don't feel comfortable to say anything. But in my classrooms, that's one of the things I always do. I always build trust. Why? Because you'll be able to say whatever you say, not being laughed at. That's what you're concerned, right? So that's what this is. Yes, give them the tools. The other thing you notice, I didn't say correct, right? Why? Because I don't like to put people on the spot. So what I said, okay, I will on what you say. Your comment is one of the parts that helps students to develop their own way to do things. You provide them with different tools. How will they use it to get the same result? That's what you want. No, the way I tell you has to be done. Because everybody has different abilities. Each of you has different abilities. So think about that. How will you do it? So this is one of the things that how I overcome many of my obstacles. Family. Without my family, I wouldn't be where I am. My wife had 2 children, so when I was in school, she took them to the beach, have fun with them. I always had a day, no matter what, that I spent with my family. Sometimes I had to even sacrifice that day because of the work I had to do in school. But that's one of the things that are always very important. Family is very important. Friends. While going to getting my doctorate degree, my colleagues in my cohort, they were my support. And that's what you're going to find yourselves when you get into the teaching credential. You're going to be a cohort. That cohort is going to be your support. Depend on them to get things done because you're going to do a lot of projects. Coaching. Listen to people. Ask questions. Because if you or someone is different than what you have, but there's somebody else, they already have faced that situation that can give you how they solve the problem, if there was a problem, or how they address it. Because you might address it differently, but you have an idea what to do with it. Teachers and professors. This lady, she's no longer here, but she was part. Her name is Alice Kircher, Dr. Alice Kircher. She's the one who was my chair in my dissertation. But I hadn't since I was in the credential program. So she's been strong foundation for me. So that's one of the things that you need to do. Find someone you can go and talk, can give you support. Always look for someone. Then you have solutions, success. I took a class called Love and Logic. This class taught me this: solve the problems that are within your grasp, that you can solve. If you cannot solve it, put it aside. Because that's the tendency we have. Oh, I got to do this for this and this. No, put it aside. Because it's nothing, it's not yours. But when it's yours, take care of it and solve it, within your means. When you take more than that, you're in trouble, especially in the classroom. You try to solve the problems for every single student or every colleague in the school side. You cannot do that. I know we are that type of people that like to be helpful. But sometimes you put things that, and there was another professor who says, don't take the monkey off that person and put it on your back. So they all say, teach somebody else to fish. Still, get the fish, but teach him to fish. So he or she can feed himself, herself. If you keep giving them the fish, they know I'm gonna come back continuously to get free food. But if you teach them to do it, then you take it off your shoulder. Do those things. So that's when the many of the solutions have to be. This year's, there's always a cycle. You're gonna find it all the time. When you become a teacher, every year is gonna be a new year. It's not gonna be the same class. You think, yes, I'm teaching first grade. I know what I'm gonna do. Yes, you know what you're gonna do. Are they gonna respond the same way that the class left your class? They just left the year before? No, because every student you have is gonna be different. So it's a brand new year. Yes, you have experience, but it's a brand new year for you to teach. So for me, 22 years, every year was new because there were new challenges, new students that were a challenge. And I was told, oh, that student is going to be a problem. Yeah, okay. You know what? It was never a problem. Mom and dad are going to be really on your tail. Okay. Never happened. It's just how you address the situation. So addressing the diverse students. Socioeconomics. See, notice I'm going back to pretty much a lot of the things that I've been talking before. It's a constant thing you're going to have. The socioeconomics, ethnicity, different races, different backgrounds. What are you going to do about it? They have to learn. So you got to do many things. Looking at racial. Again, it's something you're going to find yourself. How would you deal with somebody if a student comes and says something to a student about their racial background? How would you address it? And many times it's difficult because other people have not experienced any racial discrimination. Minority groups do have experienced that. But the important part is celebrate diversity. Diversity. Take the best of every one of you. students in class. We have a tendency to always address their bad habits, wrong things versus positive things. Let's shift. Positive things are important. It takes the same effort to provide a compliment than reprimand a student. In fact, it takes more when you reprimand a student than when you give them a compliment. Why? Because you feel good, and the student's going to feel good. So think about that part. Look at that picture and kind of think about it. And then I'll ask you to share your thoughts. Anyone? Anybody? Got an idea? Can make a comment on this one? Yes.
Equality is like giving the students the same help, everybody,
Okay.
in whatever subject. And equity is giving each student like the help they need individually.
Okay. Have you ever seen something like this around you? Many times we see this one, but they get into equal things, right? What else do they need? So, for example, I'll give you a English book. Everybody has an English book. Can you read it? Can you read it? Can an English learner read it? From different countries. It's equal, right? That's what a lot of times the argument is. But we give them equity where we provide the support so they can have access to that book in a different way, not just here, read it, say, okay, how do I help you for you to access the information? So that's the important part. In education, a lot of times they talk about equality, but most of the time now it's changing to equity. How do we really address the needs of every student? And that's what bilingual programs come to about. That's when, if you probably did not participate in the bilingual program because that's when Proposition 227 was approved. Many of the students did not get instruction in their primary language. But now it's coming back. So many students are getting instruction in their primary language, which is Spanish in our area. But there's other bilingual programs where they are doing it in other languages. So this is one of the things that cultural barriers you always find. Language, customs, meaning of time, meaning of space. We then think about your own culture, how you look at the language. When you went to kindergarten, if you want to learn Spanish, you felt out of place, right? But then as you move forward, you were getting there. Customs. You know sometimes about Thanksgiving or probably did, but it was not the understanding what was happening. Why did we have the celebration? Or why did we have Cinco de Mayo? When I came here, many people thought Cinco de Mayo was Mexican independence. I said, what? Yeah, you know, I laughed at them because it's not a Mexican independence. It was a famous battle that was in Mexico, but it's not independence. Meaning of time. We are Latino. Well, I'm just Mexican because that's what I am. We're Mexican. We say, I'm going to be there at that time, but sometimes I'm half an hour late. Isn't it true? So here, if you say, I'm going to be at that time, you better be there at that time. Space. When we were family, we're very close. But here, you better keep your space between us. So those are the things you have to learn. What happens with every culture? What with every person? How do they see those areas? How it affects their studies, their coding, and everything. All those things come into place. What the language they speak, the writing system, everything comes together. So this is what I have for you. Did you always think? Always ask for help. How many are afraid to ask for help? I'm guilty. But guess what? You don't know everything. You need to ask for help. Advice. Do you have your expert advice? No, I know everything. Why should I ask for advice? No, we don't know everything. And the important part, check with someone who has gone through it. What can I do? Learn from that person so my path becomes easier. Support. How many of you have support from family? Support from friends? Support from your professors, former teachers? Those are just important tips. I have many tips that if you ask me, how will I do this? I'll say, well, this is what I did. If you want to use it, fine. If you don't do it. Guidance. Always look for the counselors. Somehow, because they study those areas, they should be able to provide you that guidance. Assistance. I can do it by myself. But would it be easier if somebody helped me? Make it done easier and faster. So when it will take me 2 hours, I can do it in 1 hour. Because I will pick someone who has something that I don't have. I'll give you an example. I went to school to get some classes in mechanics. And I was working, we were pulling automatic transmissions. And I took, I paired with a friend who was 6 feet tall. And he said, and we challenged ourselves that we'll pull a transmission in half an hour. So what he did, anything that was high, he took care of it. Anything that was low, I took care of it. So when the transmission was ready to come out, we had the jack already in there. It came out very fast and very easy. The tall ones, I had to get a stool to get rich. With him, I didn't have to do that. So the assistant cooperation always makes a difference. So there's some of the things. Now, some of you are talking about a bilingual class, right? I don't have anything since. So I just want to encompass what is really education is all about. But this is my information in case you need it. Please don't hesitate to communicate, if you want any support. But bilingual education is changing right now drastically. Really learn how to read and write in Spanish. It's very easy. You say, no, I'll give you several examples right now. Okay? In Spanish, if you know your vowels, you're already way ahead. Why? Because if you put a vowel and put a consonant. You're just making one syllable. And I gave you an example. And you know the vowels in Spanish, right? A, E, I, O, U. Is that correct? Okay, put an A and an M to each one of them. Sound doesn't change. M-A, what is it? M-A, M-E, M-O, M-U. Okay, take the M, put the P. The A. S. T. You see, it's kind of a rhythm, right? And now, how many words you can do with those 15 vowels? Remember, in Spanish, you always put the vowels together, right? So can you do mesa, mapa, toma, sapo, sopa. See how many words I make it? Can I do that same thing in English? How do you learn English? Do you remember? That's part of my things that I keep observing, keep researching. In English, we also read it syllabically, but not the same way. The most difficult thing is you have short and long sounds. You can compare it, but I'll give you an example, okay? The ending is at, with M, right? Mat. The ending is at, met. The ending is it, mit. The end is ought, mot. The end is at, mot, right? It's the same process, the same thing, but it's just a different way. But in English, we learn with monosyllabic words. We do not learn through syllables. We learn word families. Mat, cat, sat, rat, hat. That correct? Can I put together another word? Well, in Spanish I can. So in Spanish, you really need to learn how the Spanish, we use the word works, right? How English works, how Spanish works. How the basics of Spanish is. How many of you had that experience? No, right? How many of you can read a Spanish paper or anything in Spanish? How do you know that you're doing okay?
I have a minor.
See, but again, that's the important part. How am I going to provide this knowledge to those students? What I know, I'm going to pass it on for them to develop their Spanish language. Because my schooling wasn't, your schooling is not in Spanish, was all in English. Mine was in Spanish. I had to acquire English as my second language. So a lot of my observations have been in a classroom doing those parts, doing those things. So any questions that you have? So I have about 5 minutes, so I do want to make sure that you guys are here. Questions? You will be in trouble with me. Because I know you have questions. Just afraid of doing it. Take that out of your, ask the questions, because if you have the question, I can assure you within the class, there's about 4 or 5 students have the same question. Yes.
If you were in the how did you manage that?
How did I manage that? That's what my family came about. There was an agreement between my wife and I. You're going to school and work. And she was overseeing our two children. But one of the things I did, at least once a week, I took one day. No matter what, I took a day. My Saturdays pretty much were the day that I went to spend the day with my mom. And that's important. I do understand it's a lot more times more difficult for women than for men. And it's just part of our society. It's nothing else. Because expectation, oh, you're the mother, you know you're responsible for the kid. And more in our cultural families, in our families. You're a woman, you take care of the babies. But no, it has to be a partnership, the best you can. Anybody else? And I know you're probably facing the same thing, right? And I share with you an experience. I had a former student who had the same situation. But she did not have the support of her family. So she really had to work hard to get through the provincial program. Yes. Yes.
Also, like balancing and be like very good. It's hard. I'm pregnant right now with my second. And I'm like, how am I gonna get through with this? I already have an 18. It's hard, but with the support, you should be able to get through it.
Yeah, and remember, it's only for that. It's only a stage of your life. Because when you get through your studies, it becomes now you work, right? Because the demand to go to school is tremendous. What papers are due? They said, you have to get not just one for a paper for every class that you're taking. Then you have to do the research and everything. So those things are always happening. But once you get through it, those are the obstacles. That's what you need to have. Support. If you don't have the support and you need to know what to do, I would go ask for guidance or tips. Ask people around. Like she provided her input. You just have timing. How do I manage my time? Anything else? Pleasure. I had to be respectful of your time and not your guys are going to class. So thank you very much for listening to my and the other things, I'm glad to see there are at least two gentlemen here. There is a very needed field, especially in elementary. You'd be surprised. They're always needed. You'll find that in elementary school, there's always at the most 3 male teachers. Everybody else is female.
Do you have to take the Spanish CSET?
I did.
Yeah, for the bilingual authorization.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes, you have to do that.
Okay. Yes. That was one of the questions. You do.
And there's a class with Dr. Hernandez, 60, 53, 54. There is part of it. It's in allotted 3 is the requirement.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So start thinking about those things and be part of the teacher's pathway. There's a lot of information in there and everything. So.
And then she's asking, or what's the difference between the dual and bilingual authorization?
Okay. What the dual is, Well, she will get to be in a dual immersion. She needs to have if she's a Spanish speaker, she needs to have the authorization to be able to teach Spanish.
Okay. So the CSET.
The CSET, yeah.
Okay.
When she has that authorization, she will be able to go into a dual immersion programs.
Okay.
Because she will be you will be the Spanish component.
Okay.
Because you had your Spanish and your English component. You're working together to get the structure. Depending on the dual immersion, it could be a 90-10, be 80-20, 50-50.
Okay.
And the goal of that is that they start moving up where they are at the time they were, the ones that's 90-10 or 80-20, they go to look to get into 50-50. So they get some classes in English, some classes in Spanish. So they're still developing that.
Okay. I hope you heard all that.
Yeah.
I'll ask her if she heard all that. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Hear that? Oh, they're gone. Oh, never mind.
Probably she hear because.
Oh, Valerie, I still have your laptop. I'm so sorry. Okay. I'm just going to end the recording. Hopefully you heard that. I'll send it out. Okay. Hello. Wait, are you muted? I can't hear you. On your screen, can you unmute yourself? Why is it not working? Did you connect the audio to when you first signed in? Was the audio like connect to computer audio? Okay. Do you want me to give you his email so then you can ask more questions? Yeah. Okay. Okay. We'll do that then. Bye. I didn't collect